Stop recording. Good morning again, everybody. Good morning. Precepts Day. So I'm going to talk about the precepts. What I was thinking about is the pure precepts, and yeah, I just want to talk about the pure precepts a bit today. So how do they fit in? What are these pure precepts all about? So you've got those in front of you. You can refer to them as we talk. I've had to make every effort to embody non-violence and non-harming. I've had to make every effort to wake up to my true nature and to see clearly and to live in accordance with what is true. I've had to make every effort to live and be lived selflessly for the benefit of all beings. And there's some italicized poetic language underneath that as well. So first, where do these come from? Because what we then go on to do is we have the 5 training precepts, right, which are very specific about actions related to our karma. Where do these pure precepts come from? There is a section in the Dhammapada, it's actually verse 183, if you want to look it up. And the Dhammapada is one of the earliest tranches of the Pali teachings, where the verse goes, eschewing all evil, cultivating or doing good, purifying the mind. This is the teaching of all of the Buddhas. So it's do no evil, do good, purify the mind. That really roughly lines up with these. That's kind of where these come from. We go forward in time, and then in about the 4th or the 5th century, so that's just like a verse in the middle of a big long verse, right? In the 4th or the 5th century, this starts to become a thing in the Yogacara tradition, which is what then grew into much of the Asian and Mahayana Buddhist teachings that went through Chan. It informs a lot, therefore it informs Zen. In that structure around what did they call them? They called them the Sila Traya, the 3 forms of precepts. And it was roughly the same. It was avoiding doing evil, cultivating merit, which is interesting. I'll talk about that in a minute. Cultivating merit and purifying the mind. Those were the 3 things that came up in that tradition. And then we go forward almost 1,000 years to Dogen. And we get this really from Dogen. What we're doing here comes out of Dogen, because Soto Zen Buddhism has 10 precepts and is prefaced with 3 pure precepts. And the 3 pure precepts, these are plagiarized come from that. But Dogen pulled this out. He wrote one of his fascicles in his Shobogenzo. It's actually fascicle 10 for the nerds who want to look it up. It's a block verse. It's 4 characters by 4 rows. So it's 4 characters by 4 columns, I should say. So it's a 4 by 4 grid. Try the Chinese, I don't know it. And it was Chinese, not Japanese, because he wrote and read in both. And it says, avoiding evil, doing good, will naturally lead to purifying the mind. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. So it's different, a little different. It doesn't come down to us as that. It's just and purifying the mind. It's back to the original bits. Will naturally lead to purifying the mind. So if we avoid doing evil, which is causing harm, generating ill will, right? That's what that means. If we avoid doing hurting, causing suffering, and we cultivate good, that will naturally lead to purifying. Interesting. So the cultivating merit, I suspect that's a translation glitch, because I picked that up from a reasonably reliable but not perfect source, and it didn't have the sort of understanding of the source language within it. But there's a koan out of the Zen, it's a Chan koan, so it's used in the Zen and Chan, I guess. I think it's the first case in the Blue Cliff record. Bodhidharma, who is the person, so for those of you who don't know, koans are these pithy stories. They're exchanges between teachers or masters, and they create attention. They're a glimpse into our true nature. They're a glimpse into awakened mind, and they create attention, which the idea is it's resolved instantaneously, just like a joke. You crack a joke. Oh, I get it, right? There's just that moment when you get it and you laugh. If you explain a joke to somebody, it's just worthless. The joke is about that moment of awakening, that moment of realization. So Cohen's work like that. There's that moment of realization. And that kind of shatters things. It takes you through. It's, oh, that's what this is. That's true nature. So this Cohen, Bodhidharma, who was the roughly first century person who went from India to China, and notionally, historically, he's the person who's attributed with taking this particular strain of Buddhism to China. He met with the emperor, and the emperor said, "Hey, I've got a question for you, you erudite and enlightened Buddhist teacher, you. I've been building all of these temples and all of these stupas. I've been doing all of this good work. I've been generating all of this merit. Is there virtue in this? What's the virtue in this?" And it's often translated as, the answer is often translated as empty, no holiness. But it's basically Bodhidharma saying, there isn't a shred of virtue in any of that. No virtue whatsoever. Bye. And then he walks off, he crosses the river, he goes north, and he sits in a cave for 9 years. So there's a distinction between merit and virtue here, which is an important. If you think about, well, virtue is an attribute of this, or of behavior. It's not really an attribute of this. It's an embodied behavior, because it's not with reference to a self. It's behaving in a way that causes no regrets. It's behaving in a way that is in alignment. We think of it as sort of ethical behavior, and it really is, but ethical behavior is a codification of how to behave in alignment with truth, in alignment with our true nature, which we'll get to, which is really everything is together. There aren't really separate beings. It's an illusion. So acting in alignment with that is virtue, is behaving in alignment with virtue. Merit is about doing something people will like, that people will appreciate. So we don't dedicate the virtue, we dedicate the merit. Different things. So I think there's a translation glitch in there, because this is about living a virtuous life, not living a life that generates merit. This is generating karma. These three pure precepts line up with the Noble Eightfold Path, actually, if you think about it. So the first one, the path includes within putting the first two at the end, then steps 3, 4, and 5 in the Noble Eightfold Path are right speech, right action, right livelihood. This is the precepts. This is living in a way that avoids harm. It's the training precepts on the next page. It's those precepts. Right action, right speech, right livelihood. It's living in a way that causes no harm. It's living in a way that does not have ill will. The next three, right effort, right mindfulness, right meditation, concentration. This is the practice of waking up. And the practice of waking up is about recognizing how we behave in the world as well. It's wisdom. Wisdom in the world is compassion. And right view and right intention, bringing the first two to the end. Right view is suchness. It's all. Well, so I'm going to do a sidebar, actually. This makes more sense with the sidebar, I guess. So I'm going to explain this a little bit with the Chan teachings, and really it lines up perfectly. I'll explain how it lines up with the Pali teachings as well, but I think it's what I'm trying to get to is clearer with the Chan teaching. So there's a phrase in the Chan teachings, which is also the Zen teachings, of silent illumination, which is about Buddha nature and Buddha nature manifesting. So you all heard about Buddha nature. What is this thing called Buddha nature we're talking about? Buddha nature is what each of us really is. Buddha nature is Buddha. So this is how it reconciles to the Pali teachings. When Buddha woke up, if you read the teachings, he called himself by the epithet Tathagata. Tathagata means thus come, thus gone. So there's an asymmetry here where we see a human being, but from the other side, there is no human being present. There's just presence. And Buddha was asked a series of questions. So, for example, does a Buddha exist after a Buddha dies? Does a Buddha not exist? Does a Buddha both exist and not exist? Neither exist nor not exist? He said those are not well-framed questions. You cannot answer those questions. They're not yes, no. They just cannot be answered. Because the nature of this awakening is beyond language. We cannot grasp it with language because language is a manifestation of a dualistic frame of reference. We can't get there from here. But that's what we really are. And we have these moments, we have lots of these moments. You're probably in one right now. If you're concentrating and listening, there's no you there. There's just the experience of listening. And now I've dislodged that and you're starting to think about this and there's a me again. But when you drop back into flow, there's just experiencing. There's no me in that. We do this all the time, but we are on this edge of constantly, we hear something that jars with a belief system, and immediately there's a tightening and there's oh, do I need to insert myself there? That's wrong. That's against my best interests. I need to protect my interests here. So, Buddha nature is always there when it manifests through the awakened mind, through the enlightened mind, through no hindrances, no obstructions. It's just this beautiful world we live in. But when it manifests through ignorance, through self-centeredness, then self arises and suffering arises. So, right view, right intention is around that understanding. It's recognizing we are all already awake. We just don't know it. We keep on throwing things in our way to confuse it. So this is right view. And it is, I vow to make every effort to live and be lived selflessly for the benefit of all beings. Huineng framed the precept, framed the three refuges with an internal reference. He said, I take refuge. He was offering the refuges to others, but he said, invited people to respond. I take refuge in Buddha, reality in this body. I take refuge in Dharma, truth in this body. And I take refuge in Sangha, the thousands of hundreds of millions of bodies in this body. What that is pointing at is this body from the side of realization includes everybody and everything, thousands of hundreds of millions of bodies. All bodies are included within awakened mind. And from that awakened mind, the only way of living, the only way of behaving is to make every effort to live and be lived selflessly. There is no self separate from others in there. There's just everybody in here together for the benefit of all beings. We're all in here together. And everything is for the benefit of all. So what I invite you to take away from this is that the three pure precepts are a complete teaching. The whole of the Buddhist practice, the whole of the Buddhist path is within these teachings. The last one, I meant to read some of the verses. The last verse, the italicized thing, it is transcending profane and holy and taking self and others across. There is no virtue in actions. There's just virtue. So if we accept the precepts as the full path and as awakening itself, then we end up with two verses which many of you have heard from the Sutra of Huineng, which, so the story, Huineng shows up at this, there's a story involving the Diamond Sutra, and he ends up at this monastery, and he's like off on the side because he's this illiterate woodcutter, and they don't want to stick him in with all these erudite and nicely robed monks. And the master of the monastery says, okay, I'm about to call it quits. When you all write poems, and whoever writes the best poem, I'm going to hand my robe of vow to, and I'll pass authority, transmission, authority to that person. So the monks all go off and they mumble among themselves, and they say, okay, well, there's only one of us who we should really let write a verse, and we'll leave it to the second in command. He's I forget the title, but he's like the chief of the monastery. Shen Shui is his name, badly pronounced, but that's roughly his name. So he realizes there's all this pressure on him. So he realized that there's a contradiction in should he, shouldn't he, should he, shouldn't he. Why is he writing it? Is he writing it for the authority of teaching, or is he writing it to receive dharma? But he ends up deciding to write this verse. And he writes this verse and he puts it on the wall in the hall. And it runs, body is a body tree. There's a play there, body awakening and body this body. The mind is a bright mirror stand. We polish the mirror constantly to avoid dust alighting. So that's saying that, I mean, it's the truth I just talked about. This body is the tree of awakening. This physical body is what you need. In the Pali Canon, everything you need is within this fathom-long body, assuming you're 6 foot tall. So that's what this is. This body is an awakening tree, a tree of awakening. And the mind is a bright mirror. The mind simply, awakened mind simply reflects. It doesn't lay opinions and views and perceptions and fabrications. It just sees clearly and reflects. This is the Bahia Sutta. Just seeing, just hearing. When there is just seeing and just hearing, you are not here, you are not there, you are not in between. This, just this. So the mind, the awakened mind, is just a mirror. So we constantly polish the mirror so that dust are the defilements, so the bits of me that show up. Think of the thought of, this is my book, my microphone. Why are you saying things that upset me? Stop that. So the dust is all those defilements. We polish it to stop all that dust setting. That's our practice. That's our sitting. That's our precepts. That's our practice. Huineng came across this and heard about this. He said, oh, that's not quite right. That's not all the way there. So he wrote a verse. Originally, there is no body. There is no body tree, is what he said. Originally, there's no body tree. And there's no bright mirror stand. There's nowhere for the dust to alight. Why do we need to bother about polishing to keep it clean? Which is, you're already awake. Buddha nature is already manifesting. So, of course, the rest of the story is secret meeting. He gets transmission. He runs off. Extra koans arise out of future encounters, and the whole story unfolds. And it's a lovely story. I just don't want to, it's not the point here, and it takes a long time. Those verses are both correct. This is often, we often say, oh, that guy just didn't get it. This guy gets it. Those verses are both correct. From the side of awakening, Huineng, there is no body tree. There is no mirror stand. There is no dust. But when we're wandering around in the world, boy, we need to be polishing. And this is the path. Right? So the pure precepts are actually offering both of these, as does the Noble Eightfold Path. right view ultimately is there is no body tree, there is no mirror stand, there is no dust. That is the ultimate view, which is what the path takes us to. So again, pure precepts have everything. Yeah, I'll leave it right there.